All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 268 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill, admin on the KissFAQ message board. I am remote today, so I will be speaking softly. I'm joined by Michael, who, why don't you tell everyone just a bit about yourself, because it's been a while since you've been on the show, so hopefully we've got some new listeners who are meeting you for the first time.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. It's Michael Cavacini here. So I've been a Kiss fan since Kiss performed under the Brooklyn Bridge in 1996. Saw them for the first time live in 2003 when they toured with Aerosmith. And I've been to now 16 shows in 16 years, and I've interviewed and or met basically all the living members of the band. And I've been on a few episodes here, but if you're interested in checking out any of my interviews, they're on my website, michaelcavacini.com. I'm also active in a lot of Facebook groups, so I'm sure you'll see me around, but just happy to be here.
Yeah, some really, really good interviews as well, so do please check them out if you haven't. And if you haven't, shame on you. Now there's new reading material for you as well. And not only Kiss-related, some very other interesting artists and writings. So, check it out, broaden your horizons. Alex, good to see you again. Welcome back into the fold. It's been a long time, and glad to have you back on. Bag Boy, of course, on the FAQ. And Lonnie should be joining us, hopefully, and if not, I've got his rankings, so we're going to be able to talk about those as we discuss a particular album today. And I've got two laptops going here, so if I'm turning away, I'm looking at the other screen, because not being at home, it makes it a little bit more challenging. All right, so today's topic is celebrating the 10th anniversary of Anomaly, which of course Ace Frehley released September the 15th, 2009 for the first time. We're going to do our usual kind of song rankings that are based on the system that the Lipstick Generation or the Lipstick Panel did for theirs, because again, there's not that many ways to skin a cat, and it gives us at least a way of determining what is this panel's favorite song. But beforehand, why don't you tell people about your history with Anomaly? You bought it on release date or around there. Which version did you get? And what do you recall about the anticipation of what was Ace's comeback album, his first release in, what was it? A long time.
18?
Yeah.
19 years?
Yeah, 2009, 89, so 20 years. I mean, some stuff had come out in between, like Cherokee Boogie and Take Me to the City, but in terms of a proper Ace release, this was all new material. Michael, let's start with you on your recollections.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Since I got into Kiss later in their career, after the farewell tour, well, I mean, when I say got into them, I mean, in 96, I was like too young to go see them, really. I guess it didn't even occur to me that, I could buy a ticket and go see this band, because it just wasn't something I was doing. So I think because I was such like a late bloomer, I was busy digging into the band's back catalog of releases and didn't even get to the solo records of the individual members for many years. So by the time Anomaly came out, I don't even think I bought it when it first came out, because it wasn't really on my radar. So it's something I kind of listened to years later, after probably, what was the follow-up to that? Would it have been Space Invader?
Yeah, Space Invader came in 2014.
Right, so I definitely listened to Anomaly way before then. And I think the song that probably caught my ear was Fox on the Run, because I'd like Do Ya. And Ace, when it comes to certain cover songs, he seems to, seem to fit his voice and his tone. So I think that was kind of my first impression of Anomaly. It was Fox on the Run. And then I was like, okay, let me take a look and listen more to these tracks and see what else is on here, because I remember everyone talking about how great it was, and how heavy it was, and the guitar work and things like that. So it kind of had this hype around it and this reputation for being this great record. And part of it probably is due to the fact that it had been so long since he released something new. So fans are probably just like really thirsty for something from Ace, especially because, and they even say it in some articles that came out around the time of the re-release, that, you know, he was saying like, yep, it's coming out in the spring, up, coming out in the winter, up, coming out in the fall. And it's like, well, when the heck is it actually coming out? So I think people were just like thrilled that it actually freaking came out finally. So I think that might be part of the reason why there's a certain love for it. But anyway, that's kind of my background and my experience with Anomaly, that, you know, I kind of came to the show late to Kiss and to this album.
But you got there in the end, and that's what counts. It doesn't matter when you join the army or the party, as long as you're at the party, or in the KISS Army, as the case may be. Before I go to you, Alex, I'll just tell people a little bit about mine. I mean, obviously, running the board, I was very aware of what was happening, but I think thirsty is a great descriptor of, you know, desperation, really. We were desperate for some new Ace material, especially after the fiasco that was Psycho Circus, and that being a real letdown. Again, Into the Void on that album I thought was a great song, still do to this day, and it just made me want more Ace once everyone kind of figured out that most of the rest of the guitars on that album are Tommy, which are fine, but I want more Ace. And you know, having bought Trouble Walking back in '89 and Spacewalk in 95, 96, and of course Guitar Practicing, or whichever, Smell the Fuzz for Cherokee the Boogie, you know, there had been a taste of some of the other material that Ace was doing post Trouble Walking, and I thought it was very positive material. He did a guest appearance on Richie Scarlett's album on one of the recut demos from 95-ish. He was on Anton Figments, so there was music and stuff out there that made me want more of it. But again, it was all down to his health. 2009 comes around, and I got to experience some of the PR, you know, him coming into a radio station in San Francisco and me getting to hang out with a bunch of people, watching him get interviewed on 107.7 The Bone with Frank Munoz and Derek Hawkins. Frank was, of course, critical to getting the album out in the first place. And I liked the album. There's a mix of songs on there, and it was worth the wait for me. And I think that's the key thing. Alex, what about you? Because of course you're on the younger side as a fan as well.
You know, I was born into the KISS Army, I guess you could say. Thanks, Dad. You know, I was excited to when they kind of announced it. I mean, I got to see Ace in December of 2007, December 27th, 2007. I'm a weird kid. I remember dates. And it must have been like his second comeback show. He played at Jackson, Springfield, Virginia. You know, and then it was like talk of, oh, my new album's coming out. And of course, I think the year or two prior, was on that When Kiss Ruled the World. And right at the end, you know, because both him and Peter were on there, and it said what they were doing post-Kiss, and said Ace is working on a solo album. And that was kind of it. And then I think it was Christmas 2008. Eddie Trunk had Ace on, and I actually got to call in and got to ask Ace a question. He had him and Derek Hawkins on, and they were super cool. And I had just seen them in February of that year, and so I asked a question about the instrumental, which we'll get to on the album later, called Fractured Quantum. But I was just stoked and reminiscing. Because it's about 10 years ago, and 10 years ago I was on a cross-country trip with my family, going out to Nevada, Reno. My grandfather had just passed. My grandmother was on her deathbed, pretty much, so to speak. So we went out west to go empty stuff, and so this trip it's special to me on a lot of things, obviously. And then my mom passed away, and my stepmom, who raised me from a mom, passed away. She passed away a few months later, so it's a special trip to me. And there's just so much memory of this time period, because I was finally getting to experience the excitement. I mean, a few weeks prior, Kiss had just released Modern Day Delilah, and just kind of came out with like Sonic Boom's going to be our new album. Ace had Anomaly coming out, and I remember getting to hear, gosh, again, I'm a weird kid. I'm a history major, so dates are like huge for us. But I remember like a few days coming up, it'll be 10 years. I remember getting to hear samples of Anomaly, and was just so pumped and excited that this new album was coming out. And September 15th, I know it's a special day for Ace, but for my stepmom, who had passed a few months later, that's her birthday. So I was super excited this album was coming out on her birthday, and I was just, kind of all excited already. I was 20 at the time, so for me, there's just so much memory, and there's just so much excitement, pumped up. And then Ace had even released that commercial, if you want to call it commercial or whatnot, on YouTube, where it's like the two kids waiting for the new Ace album to come out, and then they have, was it Uncle Lumpkin or Fuzzy or something like that? Guy had like a terrible mullet wig and stuff, and the little kid's like, I'm still waiting for Ace's new album to come out. And then you see this kind of overweight uncle with a bad mullet haircut, and he's like, yeah, well, I've waited 20 years for Ace's new album to come out.
Yeah, that was funny, and that was a great way for them to kind of get into the swing of things. There was a lot of humor that went around, because obviously in, I think 2005, Ace had been on Eddie Trunk, and he'd played like a re-recording of 2000 Man, which was like tons of layers of acoustic guitar. So I was a little bit worried at that point about where he was going to go in terms of direction. But I think we'll let the songs and the album speak for itself as we go through it track by track and try and determine this panel's favorite song off Anomaly. So why don't we jump in just with that methodology. Again, we assign 1 point and incremental to each song. So the least favorite is worth 1 point, and the most favorite, because there's 12 songs on the album, is worth 12 points. Add them all up and average it, and there we get our ranking. Anything that usually gets less than 10 points is a complete clunker. It's just the way the math works, if everyone's voted it that low. And on this album, nothing is under 10 points. So I think that makes it pretty clear that the quality of the album is pretty well spread, and there was nothing that everyone hated. There's also some shockers in our rankings, that I have a favorite song that is someone's least favorite song. So it's always fun to see the kind of divergence that arises out of opinion. So let's jump in. The KissFAQ panel's least favorite song on Anomaly is a little below the Angels, which only managed to score, 13 points.
Wow.
So, Michael, why don't you talk about that song a little bit and why it fitted into your ranking where it did?
Yeah, sure. I was actually just listening to the album on shuffle before we came on, just to, again, ingrain it into my brain. And that was one of the songs that came on. And I think I ranked it like looking at the list here, number 10 out of, everything. So, I mean, kind of low. The only reason why is because I think there was just stronger material that I had to rank above it. It's not that I disliked it. I actually thought it was pretty good. And I like, even though it's a little corny, when they have the breakdown with the children and all that, I just kind of like how it breaks things up, because there's a lot of typical Ace hard rock songs on here. So I think it was nice to have something that was so different on the album, and something that's kind of, sentimental and softer. And it is catchy. I mean, it does get stuck in your head after you hear that chorus a few times. So, I mean, I guess if the material overall was weaker, I would have ranked it higher. But because there were other songs that I felt had to be above it, that's what happened. And this tail here is Penny. In case you're wondering what the hell's that next to his head. But yeah, those are my thoughts on A Little Below the Angels.
Alex, how about you? Because it's not very high up your list either, is it?
No,
you guys are tied. You both had it 10th.
I do like the song. I don't like the breakdown part with the la di da. I struggle with that, and then I struggled with the little children. And I like children. I have a little one of my own. I get the sentiment and the nod to dolls on Frehley's Comet, the first Frehley's Comet album. So I get that. But it wasn't Ace's kids, it wasn't Ace's daughter Monique. I don't know, maybe I might have been more kind to it if it, he had her on it and stuff instead of some other kids. But I do like the message.
It was Monique on A Little Below.
I thought they had like some other girls, like some other people and stuff. But I guess it sounded a little corny in parts of it. Maybe restructure the song a little bit, but it's not a terrible song. But I know it doesn't come up high on my list either. But I do like the message. I think we can all sometimes feel, I like that one line. I don't know if I'll make it to heaven. Just open the gates of hell. As someone who myself, being more on religious side of life and how I live my life. I think sometimes, for people like that, you might kind of resonate with that sentiments and stuff sometimes. And so it does have a good message. Just, I don't know, probably wasn't one of my favorites on the album. So.
No, I think everything that Michael said about it, all the things he noted about it, are the reasons why I don't like it at all, and it's my least favorite song on the album. It's, down at the bottom, and I hate dolls as well. So I'm an equal opportunity disliker of Ace's sentimental songs, and that breakdown section just makes me cringe. Lyrically, it is a good song. I mean, he's trying to think outside the box and go in a different direction than exactly the sort of things that we kind of want from Ace. But that one did not work for me. It still doesn't. When I was listening back in preparation for this and trying to figure out my rankings, I was like, I wanted to be nicer to it than I could be, and I'm just not able to be. So let's see, where did Lonnie have it? Lonnie had it, he liked it the most out of all of us. It's right middle of the pack for him. And again, because the album doesn't have any songs that we've given less than 10 points to, I think that says a lot about the overall quality. Let's move on to, in 11th place, on 14 points, so very close to bottom, is Space Bear, the instrumental. Alex, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, I guess looking at my list, I had that at number 9. It wasn't bad. I wrote sort this out for anybody. There's another podcast on a certain number of sides of a coin with Frank Munoz.
And we have no problem saying 3 sides.
Okay.
We don't
Yeah.
censor any other shows. Everyone's, they have a great episode this week, so go listen to them.
Yeah, no, it was actually really good. But Frank Munoz on 3 sides. This is it's an early episode. I think Mitch LaPon was still on the show when he did it. So, and he just celebrated 5 years with Mark. So 5 years ago, he did a really good interview discussing the production of Anomaly. And he plays a little sample of what is Space Bear with some police sounds and stuff like that. And I really like the demo. I guess he demoed an alternate version that he had that wasn't released of it, but I just thought it was a kind of a mediocre instrumental. It's not terrible, but it just wasn't my favorite.
Yep, Michael, your thoughts on it?
I feel the same way. So I ranked it a little below the Angels, but the reason why is because on an album where you have Fractured Quantum, which I think is awesome. You can't really have another instrumental that comes nowhere near that. I mean, I get that it's not fully an instrumental, right? There's some dialogue, but it's just kind of a meandering thing. It just seems like there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into it. He's just noodling with the guitar. And for some people that works really well. I think for Neil Schon, he can do that. For Ace, I don't know. I don't think he's as technically gifted as Neil, so I don't know that he could do that. It seems like Fractured Quantum, which we'll get into later, is more structured and there's more diversity in it, where this is just kind of repetitious and kind of boring. So that's why I ranked it so low.
Yeah, and that's the key to why I have it, where I do it. I mean, I'm middle of the pack for my ranking on this one, because for me it's the best of the 3 instrumentals on the album. We'll talk more about the other 2, but for me it's the best of the instrumentals, so it just ends up in the middle. That kind of middle section is all kind of a tie anyway when it comes to a ranking. All right, Lonnie, he had it down bottom 3, so obviously not a big fan of it either. So let's move straight on, because we've got our first of a couple ties on this album. On 15 points, we have Genghis Khan, the next instrumental, and Change the World. So, Michael, I'll go back to you on both of those. I mean, you're just talking a little bit about Genghis Khan, which I was not a fan of. I think it's better than Space Bear in some ways until they get to the shout-out part of Genghis Khan. It's just oh, come on.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way. And it's funny because I remember when I sat down to listen to this album again, I had remembered liking Genghis Khan, and then I listened to it for this, and I'm like, what did I like about it? I couldn't remember why I thought I liked it. I mean, it's better than Space Bear, but it's not, much better. It's just, and like you said, it's just him kind of, there's some words in it and like him yelling it out and whatever. And it's okay. I mean, it's not great. I mean, it's a slight improvement over Space Bear. It's a little more melodic, I suppose. But again, it just doesn't really hold a candle to Fractured Quantum for me. So that's kind of my thoughts on Genghis Khan. I think I read some sort of write-up where they were comparing it to Zeppelin and saying it was like Ace, like being like Jimmy Page. So I'm not really I haven't really taken a deep dive into Zeppelin, so I can't make that comparison, but I just read something about it. So I thought that was interesting. And then the other one was It's a Great Life, right?
Nope, Change the World was tied to Genghis Khan.
Change the World. So, yeah, I mean, Change the World is nice. It's pleasant. It's a simple song. I mean, that's the thing about Ace, and I think if you listen to a full album of his, that you'll notice is he's kind of a simple musician when it comes, especially lyrics. He kind of needs a Gene or a Paul to really take it a step further, fully flesh out his ideas and just kind of build on them. Without someone like a Gene or Paul, he suffers. And Gene is actually the same way. I think Paul's the best songwriter in the band and always has been. And if you listen to the stuff on the Vault, some of those songs might sound a little dopey. And it's probably because Paul or someone else didn't have the opportunity to kind of weigh in on it and make it better. So that's the issue, is that sometimes, Kiss is the sum of its parts. So if you take away certain parts, you're kind of left with whatever that band member excels at. For Ace, it's really the guitar. It's not necessarily the lyrics or the singing. But once in a while, you get a really great song out of him. Unfortunately, neither of these fit that bill.
Yeah, filter. I think Paul has probably the most restraint, and he's very applied to his songwriting approach, that he doesn't have an emotional attachment to it and is able to say, that's fat, I'm going to trim that off, I'm going to change that, it doesn't work. He doesn't seem to have any problem. Ace seems to be more, well, it kind of fits, well, let's go with it.
Yeah, and I did have Change the World in the middle for me. I mean, I kind of do like the progression of the way he sings, change the world. It's catchy. It's got a nice feel to it, and it's a nice kind of like mid-tempo number. It's not going to blow you away, but it's kind of pleasant to have on in the background.
Exactly. Alex, you're with me on not liking Change the World, which of course is tied with Genghis Khan. So why don't you start off on Genghis and say something nice about it for all those tracks that I actually struggled to record.
I actually do like. I mean, I rank Genghis Khan. It's in the middle of Genghis Khan. It's in the middle of my list. I do like it. I think the vocals ruined it for me, to be honest with you. I think if it had just been a pure instrumental, it would have been a little bit better. I mean, I get the whole part of him going, Genghis, but I think as an instrumental, it would have been just fine without any lyrics to it. Or words being said. And then I think, wasn't a part of it like recorded backwards or whatnot, or they played it backwards? I know there was some unique, or Anton Fig, I think he played on this track. And it has something to do with like his drumming being kind of, a step behind or whatnot, did put into it. Change the World, I'm going to be honest, I know I don't want to give away my whole ranking, but really, Too Many Faces is number 6 and a little below is number 9 of the tracking. And that whole block, that block of 4 songs just kind of ranks low for me. Change the World again, I think there was some, what do you put it, some good soul searching that Ace had, looking at himself and stuff. And so, I can't fault him on that, with a couple of these songs, Change the World, A Little Below the Angels, that kind of an aspect. It just, I don't know, wasn't a song that I particularly enjoyed.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Ace said about the song, that it is slower than most people are kind of used to from him, and he thinks people are going to dig it. Sorry, Ace, I didn't dig it. It was too slow, and it was kind of too plodding along. It was also politically inspired by the election campaigns of 2008. Everything leading up into that election. So that's kind of interesting that he was taking inspiration from a current affairs. So I hope he's watching whatever news channel he likes to watch now and taking lots of inspiration for the next one, because he can probably write some good angry rock riffs and build a good song around it. But it just, changed the world? No. Again, that's not the Ace that I was looking forward to. And it's not terrible. I mean, none of it's terrible, but it just doesn't work. And of course, Genghis, I've already said, I don't like the shout out. It kind of ruins everything for me. And I think that song seems to be more about the amount of guitars that he used on it than about those guitars all being used and actually working well together, because it just becomes a little bit too thick for me, which is a weird dynamic to try and explain. Like, there's too many guitars, and not all of them seem to have a purpose other than being track number 97 guitar. So let's move on into 22 points in 8th spot, Too Many Faces. And I'm going to go first on this one because I love this song. It's my number one song on the album, and Alex is very last, and it seems that I'm and Michael and Lonnie both have it kind of middle of the pack, so it's very rare that we get someone who loves a song and someone who ranks it their least favorite. I love it. It's poppy, and it's kind of the poppy Ace that I like. It's catchy, got a great riff. I was thrilled as cream cheese when this was played live. I was like, wow, he actually did one of the songs that I love off the album live, and I get to hear it. So I was excited, and I was very happy, and I still enjoy it. When I was listening back to this album, unlike Genghis Khan, which I really liked at the time, and I couldn't remember why I actually liked it. I think that's similar to what you said, Michael. Too Many Faces, I had no problem. I just couldn't wait for it to come on. When it came on in the track order, I was thrilled, and I was bopping away and just really happy. So, Michael, your thoughts on Too Many Faces?
Yeah, I have it right in the middle. And I do like Poppy Ace. I think, actually, that's where he excels a lot, is because he has good pop sensibility. And on Space Invader, there was some good pop stuff, too. And obviously, a lot of his cover songs are pop. But for this one, I do think it's a good song. I think it's catchy. It's happy. Because you don't want everything to be super heavy or, slow or plodding, as you said, because you want to pep people up, right? Like, an album should kind of feel like a bit like a roller coaster. You have to bring them up, take them down, bring them back up again. That way you're sequencing it appropriately. And I feel like this is a good song to break up a lot of the heavy guitars. And it's just like a fun, enjoyable song. So that's why I kind of tossed it in the middle, because I do think it's fun. And you will notice this as we continue, but in the beginning of the album, to Alex's point, I feel like the beginning of the album, they kind of hit you with a bunch of really good songs, and they know that, which is probably why maybe later on in the album, there's kind of like the leftovers. So that's why a lot of my songs at the top are from the beginning of the album, which is why this one, again, got kind of stuck in the middle. It's just because there's just other ones that I felt should be ahead of it. But I do enjoy it, and I would listen to it. I wouldn't, there's certain songs I'd probably skip. This wouldn't be one of them.
Right. Alex, what are your thoughts on such an opposing view for once?
The only thing for me, lyrically, it's not terrible. And I don't know if it's the sound. I thought maybe I might have had a defective disc. There's just this kind of like, it sounds like a skipping CD part and part of the song. And I almost kind of was worried to say that because I don't want anybody else to kind of pick up on what I think might be perceived as an issue. And then they're like, oh man, like now they can't listen to the song there because I ruined it for them and stuff. But so for me, and I made sure, because I had a couple copies of Anomaly, I the Best Buy edition, the regular, the deluxe, and it's there, and I had the iTunes version for the bonus track. So it's part of the song, and I think just for me, maybe my ear is it's a sound that maybe I just don't pleasantly like in a song, and I think that's just kind of why it ranked low for me. For other people though, it's not something that bothers them, and more power to them. It's the same with a lot of music with my wife. I listen to a lot of prog rock and stuff, and synthesizer from the 70s, like Roger Powell. And my wife just thinks it's all a bunch of weird stuff, and just a lot of times just turn that off and switch the music. So,
yep, fair enough. All right, where did Lonnie have this one? He had it middle of the pack as well, so I think it would be in a better single. All right, moving on into 7th and 6th place, another tie on 26 points, Pain in the Neck and Fractured Quantum. Let's get the instrumental out of the way first. Michael, your thoughts on both of these songs?
I think Fractured Quantum is great. I enjoyed the instrumentals. I guess Ace had he kind of had like a trilogy of these, right, from Fractured. And then I guess this is continuing that. I enjoyed all three of those, and I was, happy to see him kind of continue that with this, which he broke away from that with the next two albums. And I like it. I like how, it's very similar to the other Fractured songs where it's almost like he plots it out, right? Like, okay, you have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and this part of it's going to be this kind of sound, and then it's going to ease into this other sound, and then we're going to end it with this kind of a sound. I like that. I think it's kind of cool because you're kind of wondering, all right, where's it going to go next? And I enjoy that. I always think those are also kind of, relaxing kind of songs when he does them, and I just enjoy them. I don't know. I would always look forward to them on his albums. So, and I think this one particularly is very good. So that's why I actually ranked it number 2. Because I enjoyed it so much. Pain in the Neck, I ranked that number 6 because I think, it's okay. It's a good song. I think musically it's good. Lyrically, it's all right. Vocally, it's like, signature Ace, where he's kind of he's got that heavy accent. So it's like you either like his voice or you don't. It's kind of like Neil Diamond, right? He either drives you nuts or you enjoy it. And I think Pain in the Neck is just kind of a typical Ace rocker. And I think because it was so catchy for me and stuck in my head, I felt like, all right, I have to kind of rank it highly. And I thought the guitar work was good. I have to tell you, overall, and we'll probably get to this at the end, but I'm just going to kind of reveal a little bit. Overall, I'm not a huge fan of this album. I think it's actually one of Ace's weaker albums, which is why I think a lot of these songs sound very similar for me, or they kind of get lumped together where they do, because none of them blow me away, except for one song. So that's why, if you're hearing my thoughts about these songs and you're like, oh, it sounds like he's saying similar things about several songs. Well, that's because to me it sounds very homogenous, the album. There's not a lot of variety here, except for maybe a few things. And I think Pain in the Neck is just one of those typical Ace Anomaly rock songs.
Hey, that's a good point about it being, kind of homogenized, as you put it. And that's probably why I like Too Many Faces, because he actually wrote it. And it would usually be the sort of material that he would cover, say like Fox on the Run or Do Ya or Into the Night, which recovers, or what was the one on Second Sighting, the Steelheart song, so he's often gone to bought stuff rather than write it, and that's why I'm such a fan of the one that he did write himself. Alex, your thoughts on both Fractured Quantum and Pain in the Neck?
I love Fractured Quantum. It was really a tie between my number 1 and that song. I won't reveal my number 1 just yet. But again, I mentioned about that trip and stuff, and I just felt, that road trip I had with my family, then my grandmother passing, it came at a good time, and I guess for me, I'm emotionally connected to that song. I just thought that the sound of the song, the mellowness and everything. You hearing the children in the background in the beginning and stuff, and I guess for me it just had a very just deep connection to me. And I know there's a part of the song that sounds like a little nod to the first Fractured Mirror. I wish I could say what the minute mark is, and maybe I'll comment it on the message board part. But there's a little part that I remember, like you just said, sounded like they were, it was like a little riff of similar to the first Fractured Mirror, and I was really, really happy with that. And then Pain in the Neck, I do enjoy it. It's interesting. I feel like it's the yodeling aspect is like stuck in my mind with the song. That I think there is a deluxe edition of this album that has some bonus tracks, and one of it's a slower version, alternate version of the song. And then like in the notes it says, "Can you hear the yodeling and stuff?" And I don't know if it's there or not, but the drummer Scott Coogan did a great job with that. And I just thought it was kind of a fun little rocking song. And when I've had a few girlfriends in between. I got married and stuff. I got married in 2016, but before that, I had some girlfriends, and when this relationships ended, you kind of got to put on your get over the ex playlist and stuff, and this is one of those songs. Just kind of put on the jam, go like, yeah, we'll get over this. She's a pain in the neck. It's good.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about this album is that it is in some ways very one note, pain in the neck. When I was sitting back before I even listened to this, the album, to recap it, just trying to think of the parts of these songs that jumped out at me to see how memorable each one of them was. And all I could remember was that really slow, repetitive chorus for this one. So it hasn't aged particularly well, but Michael, Lonnie, and myself all ranked it the same. So, again, good middle of the pack. I think the riff, the music track, is better than the lyrics on this one, and I know there were reasons why it just ended up the way it was. Fractured Quantum, I didn't like before I even heard it. I just was so over hearing any instrumental by Ace with fractured in its name. I was like, it was like forehead slap for me. So I think I'm probably biased against it because I rank it very low. Just because it doesn't seem to go anywhere. It doesn't have enough dynamics for me. And I know the original Fractured Mirror was one that started a very Skinnerdy, Freebird, or, kind of building throughout, but it never gets to a crescendo that I really need from Aces. I need pyrotechnics in there somewhere that just show him to be the spaceman ripping up the fretboard. And maybe I'm just more into fireworks and ambiance, and that's just, just for me. But again, not terrible, but certainly not outstanding. I think it's the least of the versions of Quantum anything that he'd done to that point. And Lonnie, it's his least favorite on the album, so there we go. So that was on 26 points. Moving on to fifth place on 34 points is It's a Great Life, which, again, Alex has touched on it a lot with your descriptions of listening to this album. A song becomes part of the soundtrack of your life, and you can often associate it with things that happened, so that whenever you hear that song in the future, you recall things. And I think that's what Ace is kind of trying to represent in this song. For me, it's, middle of the road. It's not bad. It's not stunning, but I like the message in it a lot. And I think that's where he really hit it out of the park and made a successful song, and it being kind of emotional and cool. Michael?
Yeah, I think the message is good. It's a little corny, I think, when he references his dad. My daddy used to say, or something like that. And I kind of laugh every time I hear that part. So, I mean, it is, a good message. Obviously, it's a little amateurish, I guess, in the way it's written, but hey, it's Ace. But it is, again, it's just kind of a pleasant song, and I do think that it does help break things up a little, because it's not, because you have like Sister, Outer Space, Pain in the Neck, like a lot of those songs kind of have a certain feel, where I feel this one is different. It's kind of similar to Too Many Faces in that it's more light, and just kind of an upbeat, positive song, and I do appreciate that. And I ranked it actually in the middle. I have kind of Too Many Faces and It's Great Life kind of stacked on top of each other because they just kind of fall there for me. So I enjoy it. I listen to it every time it plays. It doesn't blow me away, but it's just pleasant and fun, and kind of a chorus that sticks in my head.
Yep. Alex?
Sure. It's my number one. I really like it. Again, touching on that. I think for me, just again, emotional connection. That time period, and also It's a Great Life. My daddy told me and stuff like that. And it just really, I felt like it was almost like a perfect song of my relationship with my dad. And I think that's why it really connects so well with me. I think of when I was a kid, and you remember when you're like a kid, and it could be something silly like your favorite Hot Wheel car got destroyed or whatnot, something silly like that. But as a kid, you're kind of like so upset, and my dad was always like, hey, it's not the end of the world and stuff like that. And so I remember that so well. And so I think for me, that's why I really just connected super well with the song. And I just loved, I remember the sample. I was in Nauvoo, Illinois, and then, coming up on, like I said, 10 years. And I just remember being at the hotel and getting to hear these samples. And I just remember, I just thought the riff of it was so unique and different than an Ace song. I don't know if we call it a jazzy feel or something like that, but it was different enough. I was like, man, this is catchy and stuff. And then again, once the words, you hear the words, that just really connected with me. So for me, that's why it rings high as number one for me. And hey, it's a great life.
Yeah, if you don't weaken.
Yeah,
that's a really catchy kind of thing that his father used to say to him. Nice that he worked that into a song. All right, let's move on. We have another tie, the last of our ties, fortunately. On 36 points tied are Foxy and Free and Outer Space, both of the rockers on the album. Michael, why don't you talk about both of those songs to you?
So I ranked Foxy and Free higher than Outer Space, but actually it's weird. So I think the chorus of Foxy and Free is, good, but I actually like Outer Space. I actually may flip that. I don't know. I really liked Outer Space. I think the guitar work on Outer Space is very good and really well done, and that's why it stood out for me. But I do think they're kind of similar. I guess Foxy and Free kind of has a more of it's less of a hard rock song. I mean, it is hard rock, but it's more of a pop song element to it. But I do kind of see those as similar songs. I enjoy both. I think they're good songs. And I think he kind of, like I said, packed the front of the album with a lot of those songs, knowing, okay, here's a 1, 2, 3 punch of songs that should blow you away. Because you don't want to bury stuff, right? It's almost like writing a story. They tell you, do the inverted pyramid. Put the most important stuff at the top and the least important stuff at the bottom. Now, for an album, sometimes, there's different approaches. But I feel like for him, because it had been so long since he had an album, he really wanted to, stack the deck and have some really good stuff right up front, which is why I think these are where they are in the album.
Sorry, on mute. So, yeah, good explanation. Good thoughts on that. Alex, what about you and Foxy and Free and Outer Space? And you're on mute.
I know Foxy and Free came a little lower on my list. I guess I probably wanted to put it as the lead-off song for the album. It's not terrible, but it just kind of came on my bottom half. I do like again, I know we're talking the album. There was that deluxe edition which does have "The Heart for Me," which I guess is the original version of the song, and I do prefer those lyrics a little bit better. Outer Space, that was my third, and that was number 3 for me. And I really liked it. I just thought it was kind of catchy. I mean, I know some people, and I do think Space Invader took a lot of liberty with space-themed songs. but this one was really fun. I believe it's, I don't know, do you call it a cover song? It's actually from another band, isn't it?
It's a cover. I mean, he purchased it. I think he made some changes to it. I have to look over my shoulder at the notes when I get to talk about that one myself.
But I thought it was fun. I liked the ending. The little line, the earth is rolling on sevens. This place is going to be fried with that kind of spaceship, flying away sound. So I just thought it was a fun song.
Yeah, so just looking over my notes on Outer Space, it was originally written by Jesse Menendez and David Askew in 2000 for their then band Shred Mill, and nothing came of it at the time, so Ace did it. So I had a problem with, again, the space theme. It just seemed too predictable for the single, but it's a great song. Really fun and enjoyable. Foxy and Free is a great lead-off track. I mean, for those of us who were waiting for Ace and we're looking forward to more material because it tied in with Psycho Circus originally being Hard for Me, that he'd apparently presented to the band and been rejected in 1998. It was great to hear it, though obviously he had to change the lyrics because he couldn't remember who had contributed what to the song when originally written. And I think Sebastian Bach got a little bit upset that, it was redone and kind of took off his contributions. But, if Ace couldn't credit it, maybe he didn't want an extra songwriting credit on the album. But I think, it's a good song. It's not spectacular. It's good enough to open the album with and whet your appetite for more of what comes. But it doesn't do the role that Outer Space, being up-tempo, very catchy, does as the first single. So I think he was more successful with the cover than the opening track for the album. No.
I think it's interesting that Outer Space is... I actually didn't know that it was a cover song because it sounds like something he wrote. It fits him very well. So he made a good choice with selecting that. So that's interesting how it fit in really well. Because most of the time when he does a cover song, it's really obvious. You're like, okay, this is a cover. Because he usually covers something that's really famous. So I thought this was an interesting choice. And it's a good addition to the album, so I'm glad he included it.
Yeah, and the reason he said that it was like a reintroduction of his original persona, since it was his first album back, and he used the makeup on the artwork. It kind of all made sense to him. And I don't know how much of the original Shed Mill song remained, because Ace has a credit on it as well. So he obviously made some changes. I can't remember if we ever got to hear the original demo. I'll have to look back into that, and someone can maybe chime in online and say, yeah, you can go listen to the original version here, because it's so long ago. Again, a lot of my feelings of this are just my impressions of what I recall feeling. All right, let's move on to number 2, and we can catch up with Alex when he's able to come back, but life comes first. All right, in second place on 37 points, and 36, 37, 38. It's a tight battle at the top here. Fox on the Run. And I'm going to go first on this. This is one of my least favorite covers that he's ever done. It could have been so good because it's a great song that he's covering, and he just didn't make it his own for me. But he didn't ruin it either, so I ranked this 5th, which again puts it right in that middle. So it's a good song, and yeah, it's a good song for Ace, but he just doesn't hit a home run with it as far as I'm concerned. Michael, your thoughts on Fox on the Run?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. So I love Fox on the Run. To me, it's my favorite song from the album. But to your point, it reminds me of Rod Stewart released a covers album a few years ago. I forget what the heck it's called, but on it, he covers a lot of songs, and he doesn't really make it his own, or any of them his own, which is a shame because he's Rod Stewart, right? You would think, someone like that who's known for covering songs and like really doing an amazing job, that he would, it's called Still the Same, greatest rock classics of our time or something like that. And Rod covers Missing You, I Stand By You, and a bunch of other songs. And while they sound good, because, he's a phenomenal voice, he doesn't actually really put his own stamp on it or do anything, fascinating with it. He just plays it safe, which it sounds like you're saying that's what Ace did here with Fox on the Run. I guess because I wasn't so familiar with Fox on the Run, I just love how, it really is like the most poppy song on the album. And to me, it almost sounds like a sequel to Do Ya. Even though they're both cover songs, they just sound like perfect together. And I feel like because I love Do Ya, I love Fox on the Run. And I've never seen him perform it live, but I would love to if he would dust it off and bring it out. I just think it's the best song on the album because it just always perks me up and gets me singing along to it.
Yeah, I think he could certainly drop some of those Kiss songs and put in some more of his solo material. He's not lacking the material to perform live, other than not wanting to do it. So, yeah, I like your comments about it being like almost a follow-on from Do Ya, but Do Ya he owns. even though he didn't change it that much from listening to the ELO version or the Move version of that song, he still put his Ace stamp on it where he just kind of missed with that. But again, still a great song, so no criticism. Alex, let's move on to you. And where did you have Fox on the Run?
I had it on number 5 on my list.
Yep, same as me.
But it's not like a bad song. And I know Ace did do it a couple of times, but I know we did the episode with, what do you want to call it, kissed opportunities. And to me, this is a missed opportunity for Ace. I love when he opens up with Rip It Out, but the way he does the intro or the beginning of Fox on the Front, talk about what a cool opening track to open up a show with and stuff. Have the band down and have him just kind of come out and do that beginning where he's tartling the switch and stuff and just go into the song. It'd be a great opening song for one of his live concerts. And I was kind of bummed when he did the Anomaly tour that wasn't really kind of what he went for and stuff. But I always thought it was like a missed Ace opportunity.
Yep. No, I think Kiss and Ace never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity in some ways for for fans. That we always want something that they're not willing to give us, so it has to be good enough what they do give. All right, so Lonnie had this 4th, so it's obviously it resonated with everyone well. There you go. There's one song left, and by process of elimination, you can probably figure out that it's Sister. Just squeaking into the lead on 38 points. It was my second favorite song on the album. Again, when the demos that Ace was recording in the early 90s, or maybe it was 95 by the time that happened, they'd been in the set. The riff dates from 88. Had originally been just a demo session that he did, and that song was basically there musically. But when it got to Richie Scarlett being back in the band, there was attitude, there was guitars, there were lots of guitars. And I thought the guitars on the demo were better than the guitars on Trouble Walking, which to me is the best Ace album when it comes to guitar of his solo career. So I loved the song. I loved it in 95. I loved it when it came out, and I'm glad that he included it on that album and didn't just walk away from some of that older material and say that that's just too old, I've moved on from there. So I was very thankful that it was there. I'm thankful that it's been in a lot of the sets that I've seen him perform. And again, I've never hidden how much I love Richie Scarlett and what he brings on stage. I know he's an acquired taste for some, but I love him in all his glory up there on stage playing the song with Ace. To me, it makes everything all right for what I missed in 1995 by not being in the country. So, Michael, your thoughts on Sister?
Yeah, to echo your thoughts about Richie Scarlett, I'm glad I got a chance to see him perform live multiple times with Ace and his band, prior to him leaving the band and the band changing. Because I thought he's fun. He's kind of just like a fun rock and roll guy. Reminds me of like when you go see Billy Idol. It's like, how could you not have a good time? So then I got a guitar pick from Richie, and he's just fun, fun, like gritty rock and roll personality, and him and Ace go together really well. And so Sister, the chorus, which I can't even really think of right now, because I don't think that's really what resonates for me with it. I think it's more about the guitar. And if I recall, wasn't this one of the singles or the lead single that they released? Because I know that the song got a lot of attention at the time.
I think Out of Space was the single, at least that's my little copy states, featuring
it got a lot of attention just because everyone basically knew it from the 90s demos, and that was probably why it bats above its weight.
Yeah, and I do think, I wish Ace had done that with other stuff, because there's other demos that he has that never got dusted off and polished and put on an album that absolutely should have. So it's nice to see that he took the time to do that with this track, because it is one of the stronger ones, as evidenced by the fact that he thinks it's worth including in live sets. And I'm not surprised that it's ranked highly by everyone. I think, where did I have it? I had number 5. So, I do enjoy it. To me, it's not the best track on the album, but it is very strong. And it's nice that it was able to still be good in its final form, because, sometimes you hear a demo and you're like, oh, this is so much better than what the crap we got. But thankfully with this, it seems like he was able to maintain that integrity and keep it in the final version of the song. So I do enjoy it, and that's why I ranked it within the top 5.
Yeah, the best of the 95 ones, he'd done Too Far Gone was on Ritchie's Insanity Alive album, I think. Take Me to the City would be another great one for him to revisit. And I don't think he'd do Don't Want to Lose You, which was the 4th of those kind of demo tracks. I think that's pretty much just a Ritchie song. Alex, your thoughts about Sister?
I know it ranks number 4. Sorry, my little one just had to wake up from a nap, so you may hear. I apologize.
Don't worry, they do what they do.
Yeah. I ranked number 4. I think it could have been higher. Kind of like you mentioned, just that demo. I think the demos were just a little bit better, a little more faster pace. But I was super glad to see the song made the album because, you can find plenty of videos of Ace doing this live in '95 and whatnot, and him saying this is a new, song off the new album. So I was glad it was on the new album and stuff. So, made Ace look like he's telling the truth. I wish he could have done a guest spot with maybe Ritchie on it to see how that could have been. I find Ritchie, Scarlett, and Ace. I know Julian Cinnamon probably gets tired of me mentioning them, but it's like Todd Rundgren with his bass player Chasm Sultan and stuff. Todd always for a lot of tours has Chasm with him, though Chasm isn't part of the show. He or one of the main acts, but he's part of that kind of that dynamic duo thing. And I think the Ace Ritchie is such a great dynamic duo. It would have been great to have had Ritchie even just guest spotting on just Sister alone and stuff. But I was so glad it made the album. Again, there really is a really cool interview on Three Sides of the Coin with Frank Munoz that's worth giving a listen to hear some of the stories. Because I think they mentioned this song kind of almost didn't make the album, but it was kind of like, oh no, we need to throw this on the album because it's got such a history with your Ace. And so I was glad it made the album, and it really is kind of a fun track, and I'm glad it made the set list even for his later tour dates when this album came out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw it last year, and when they visited the final shows that he kind of did with Ritchie and that lineup. So, great song. And Chasm, by the way, is a part of that show because their interaction on stage when I saw them in Vegas, he wasn't just some invisible musician. None of those guys who were performing with Todd were invisible. All right, let's go into final thoughts about the album. And I think, Michael, you've touched on it and kind of where it fits with the other studio albums that Ace has released since. Kind of where do you put it overall versus Space Invader or Spaceman? And I don't even want to put Origins into the question because that's just, covers.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. Origins is, a nice departure, but I don't really consider it, to be, since it's not overall original material. I actually rank Anomaly at the bottom. I think that Spaceman is awesome, although he's got to get rid of the space thing. It's getting very confusing. Spaceman, Space Invader, what's next? Like Space Ace, come on. It's very hard to keep track of what the heck you're referencing. But I would say it'd probably be Spaceman first, Space Invader second, Anomaly last. For the modern Ace material, I think Trouble Walking, like you said, is the best Ace album. Obviously, 1978 album is excellent too. But yeah, I don't know. Anomaly just is not something I go back to that often because I don't know. Space Invader is there's so many, Give Me a Feeling. I loved it. I Want to Hold You. I love Past the Milky Way. I feel like that is such an underrated song. And then I feel like with Spaceman, I feel like it's a stronger record. So when I compare these two to Anomaly, I'm just kind of like, I'd rather listen to them than Anomaly. While I love Fox on the Run, Foxy and Free, Outer Space, and some of these other tracks, there's maybe really 5 songs that I would listen to over and over again. The rest, I could be listening to Rock Soldiers or Trouble Walking or something else and have more fun. So why bother? So yeah, I don't rank Anomaly very highly. And that could be because, again, I wasn't a fan just waiting around for a new album to drop. Like Steve Perry is a great example. Ever since I've been a Steve Perry fan, I've been waiting for new music from Steve Perry. And then when he finally released his new album, I loved it, and I still do enjoy it, and I think it's fantastic, and there's some amazing songs on there. Now, I'm sure if you talk to someone who becomes a Steve Perry fan in 10, 15 years, and you ask them what do they think of it, they'll be like, it's okay. But for me, it was like, thank God he's back, right? So I think it really does depend on what kind of fan you are and when you became a fan. I think that totally influences your opinion on the material.
Yeah, I think for me, the waiting was one part, but I think because he's put out so much more music since, that he's grown in confidence, and this was just wetting his beak. Oh, we've got our fourth host, Lonnie. You weren't needed after all. We've got four now. We're all good. So from that angle, he certainly met expectations by releasing it, and I think there's enough material that does hold up and did hold up well live in concert, but particularly with Space Invader, I think he just exceeded where he had been, and I think even with Spaceman, there's some songs on there that work really well for me. So I think what's most important was that he put out music, and he's continued to put out music, and I hope he continues to want to put out music, because he's got a lot of good riffs. Lyrically, I think if he could find a partner that he could work with just to help filter, it wouldn't go wrong, and maybe instead of 6-minute songs feeling gratuitously 6 minutes in length, editing and someone to help him with his focus, and he just doesn't really have that, and maybe he doesn't want it. So we'll just see where we go. Alex, where does it kind of rank for you in relation to the rest of the albums that he's released since?
And I know we're not counting Origins, but for the longest time it was number one between, this Spaceman and then, for me, Origins. But then when Spaceman came out, that kind of took it to a number two. Just because I feel like with Spaceman, and kind of what you mentioned, having somebody to filter, and I felt like with Spaceman having it nine songs, it was quality versus quantity. And I think for this album, and it's tough because, when you get that album, you go like, oh, I want more songs and stuff. But sometimes, it's, do you want quantity or do you want quality? And I think with like Anomaly, like I mentioned for myself, between tracks 6 through 9, sometimes it's just an automatic skip for those four. It was like a little block. But at the same time, there was like, for me, I mentioned, there's a connection to the album that I really love with it, and a lot of memories associated with it. For myself, I don't remember the exact date from when Trouble Walking came out. I was born in 1989, though, so for me, it was the first new Ace Frehley album. So there's that huge excitement for it, though. But I like like you said, the method of that he used on Spaceman. Not that we're here to talk Spaceman, but I hope Ace will kind of keep down in mind the more quality versus the quantity.
Yep.
And I think it does him really well then. And I hope he does new music. I'm just thinking about it because I felt like they said Origins 2 was done, and it should become. They said it was going to be coming out this year or whatnot. But when you think about it, and if it does make it this year, in 10 years we got 5 Ace albums. Granted, 2 of them are cover albums, compared to a 20-year period of no Ace albums except for 2 compilation albums of some live material. So I'm happy though that we're getting some new material.
Yeah, it's always good. So let's wrap this one up. It's the 10th anniversary of Anomaly. E1 has a special deluxe edition coming out on yellow vinyl on September the 27th. That features obviously the 3 bonus songs on double LP, and they're using the alternative artwork for it as well. So I think it's still worthwhile if you don't have a vinyl copy, adding that into your collection with the new art, which I think is better than what Ace managed to come up with on that. I've not been a fan of his graphic design for what it means. It's his own stuff, so great, but it's not the album cover or the packaging that's important to me. Michael, any final thoughts before we call it a day?
Yeah, so I agree. I think it's great. I think any musician or artist should continue to create. whether it's an author, musician, whoever. I always want more. I never want less, because it just gives us, you can just kind of wrap yourself in everything that they create and just enjoy it. And like I recently met Clive Barker, and I look forward to taking a deep dive into his books that I haven't read. And I love that there's so much to experience. And with any artist, I hope that they continue to create more. I hope Ace creates as many albums as possible before he stops. And I was looking at it, looks like he's releasing something every 2 years. And hey, if he keeps up at that pace, or even more frequently, that's cool by me. And I do think everyone should buy this album. Even though I rank it at the bottom of his modern material, it's still good. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a bad album at all. It's good, and there's a lot of even great material on it. So, but that's the thing. When you're someone like him who puts out consistently good material, it can be hard to decide what's your favorite. So, I that's why I picked it up. I did buy the reissue album with bonus tracks, and they're just kind of cool to check out. And for anyone that doesn't have a copy, I highly recommend that you do give it a go, because it can help you better understand where Ace is today and how he got there. So I think it's absolutely worth it. And of course, if he decides to include these songs when you see him live, it's always good to be familiar with them ahead of time. I still give Anomaly 2 thumbs up, even though it's not necessarily at the top of the pile.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Alex, your hands are full. So let's call that an episode. Lonnie, thank you for your contributions and your ranking. And let us know what you think about Anomaly, the packaging, the versions that you have. What were the standouts? What were your expectations if you'd been waiting, 20 years, as many of us had been? I think I was probably most disappointed that it did not come out in the spring. But there you go. It came out eventually, and we've been able to celebrate its 10th anniversary. So here's hopefully to more anniversaries of Ace music. Ace, get back in the studio. We want more. We're never happy. We're never satisfied. So for now, from Michael, from Alex, and myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.